Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie, and today I'm so excited to be sharing with you Prism Parade's upcoming collection called Meet Me at the Mall. This is a 7-piece neon rainbow lineup that has shimmers and even a couple of glow-in-the-dark shades. And I'm also going to be reviewing their new Pride charity polish, which is going to be separate from the collection, but I'm showcasing them all together because why not? As always, I will have more information on these at the end of the video after some comparisons. For now, let's just get into the swatches. The first shade in the collection is Clairvoyant, which is a neon magenta polish with green to indigo to violet shifting shimmer. So I would have just called this a hot pink as opposed to magenta. Either way, it is so gorgeous. No surprise, one of my favorites from the lineup. It had a really great formula too that was very pigmented, super smooth, and easy to apply. I would say that I got really great coverage on this one in just 2 coats, where you can see like a little hint of nail line if you're really looking, but I just don't think it's enough to do a third. The color is just so bright, and I feel like the shimmer almost gives it this really slick, wet kind of look, where it's not super glowy, but definitely noticeable. Then we have 2 Straws, 1 Julius, which is a neon orange with a pink shimmer. So I personally don't understand the reference for this, but the color is still super gorgeous. I would say the formula is a little bit more on like the jelly, crelly leaning side though, especially compared to the last shade. So while it still is very pigmented, I found that it was still a touch sheer. And for whatever reason, for my live swatch here, I just decided to leave it at 2 coats, but looking back on it, I feel like I could have done a third just to cover up a little bit more of my nail line and even my half moon. So if you're someone who does thinner coats, you probably will need 3 for this one. I think the shimmer in this is even more subtle than the last shade, but it does have a shift to yellow. Speaking of yellow, the next shade we have is Food Court Flirt, which is a neon yellow with a green shimmer, and this one is one of the glow-in-the-dark shades. This is your typical highlighter yellow color. It is just so vibrant. The formula on this one was very similar to the last shade, I would say, where even though it does have really great pigmentation, it's still a bit sheer, and because this color is even lighter than the last shade, I found that I really needed 3 coats for this one. But full disclosure, I did do a bit of a thicker third coat just to really even everything out. So again, if you do prefer doing thinner coats, you might find that this one is still a bit sheer and maybe uneven. And here you can see the glow in the dark effect. I was pleasantly surprised to see that this has more of that smooth pigment. I definitely prefer that over the grainy one, but I only charged it for 30 seconds under flash, so it is a little bit weak. Next we have another favorite. This is Mallbrat, which is a neon green with a gold to pink shifting shimmer. It's actually described as a gold to red, but I don't see red, I see pink. Either way, like I said, this is another favorite. I absolutely love this shade of lime green for summer, and I especially love when it's paired with a gold shimmer. It's just so glowy and vibrant. I think the shimmer in this one definitely stands out the most, especially compared to the last 2 shades, but the formula on this reminded me the most of Clairvoyant, being more of that pigmented, buildable, crelly. I just kind of struggled with the application because I didn't have enough polish on the brush, but I think it looks fine on 2 coats. Then we have Made You a Mixtape, which is a teal polish with fuchsia to gold to orange shifting shimmer. I think I would say this is another favorite from the collection. I just really love teals, and especially as we get closer to summer, it just reminds me of like going to the pool. This one had a super beautiful formula. I found that it was like the most even coverage, the smoothest to apply, but it was on the more sheer side, surprisingly. I do think it is passable on 2 coats if you don't mind seeing a little bit of visible nail line, but I definitely prefer this one built up in 3 just to get a little bit more coverage. I think it does intensify the color a tiny bit more, which I love, and the shimmer in this one stands out so beautifully. It has a nice contrast being pink against the teal, but again in more extreme lighting, having that shift to gold. Ugh, I love it. The neon blue in the collection is called Fountains and Photobooths, and this one is filled with a pinkish purple shimmer. The formula on this one was really similar to U A Mixtape, being a little bit more sheer, almost like on the jelly side, but as you can see, it is a little bit more patchy than the last shade, though I think on 2 coats it did even out a good amount. It's just a little bit sheer still where you see visible nail line. So this is another one that I think is passable on 2 coats depending on your preference, but you could also just do a 3rd coat to deepen the color, even it out a little bit more. I definitely think it is worth that 3rd coat just because it intensifies the blue and makes it pop so much more. And while this one does have a contrasting colored shimmer, I feel like it didn't stand out as much as the last shade, for example, but you still can see the shift from pink to purple. And of course, rounding out the collection, we have Berry Goth, which is a neon purple with a large particle blue shimmer that also glows in the dark. The formula on this felt the most similar to the last shade, where it's a little bit on the jelly side, maybe not the most even coverage or self-leveling, but still very pigmented to the point that I found it opaque enough for me on 2 coats. I do think it evens out nicely and just makes it passable on 2 coats for me, but you could always do a 3rd if you want to obscure your nail line a little bit more. I really liked how the shimmer popped in this one, but I didn't love the glow in the dark effect, specifically because it is the grainy pigment. I do really like that it's like that light blue color. It just has a really cool glow. Again, I only did it 30 seconds here. Lastly, I wanted to share swatches of Heart Like a Riot, which is not a part of the collection, but rather Prism's Pride charity polish, where $3 of every bottle is going to benefit It Gets Better. This is an iridescent flaky topper that mainly shifts between colors like blue and purple with some pops of pink, and there's this dainty holographic dusting in there as well. It's definitely going to look better layered over black because over white it just kind of pulls more yellow and green, but that could be cool if that's what you're going for. And of course, I did also want to show this layered over the whole collection just because it's a whole rainbow. While I do love a kaleidoscope vibe on your nails, I feel like unfortunately the topper wasn't really popping as much over these colors as I was hoping they would, which I guess does make sense because iridescent flakies usually pop the most in lower or indirect lighting. So here under my desk lighting, it's not going to look the best in my opinion, but I ended up doing a lazy rainbow gradient with this collection and layered Heart Like a Riot on top. Took some photos in lower lighting and I just think it looks so cool. The flakies just pop so much more. And here are my full hand swatches of the collection. I'm wearing 2 coats each with base and top coat in direct sunlight. So I would say here in direct sun, you can definitely make out even more visible nail line with some of the shades. I think it's most obvious in the orange, yellow, green, and teal. Moving on to comparisons, we're starting with Clairvoyant, and I of course want to show this next to Neon Arcade, which is Prism's other hot pink, but hopefully you can see that that one is not neon. It still is bright and glowy with a darker blue shimmer, but definitely not similar. I would say the closest to a dupe is Apocalypse's Hot Cordyceps Summer, which just recently launched. To be super nitpicky, I wouldn't call them 100% exact dupes, but they definitely are super close to the point that you don't need both. I think Apocalypse's formula is a little bit more full coverage and it's also a little bit lighter. Next, for Two Straws, One Julius, I wanted to quickly show this next to Paloma Sunset, which was from the last collection, but that one is more of a coral with a gold shimmer, so definitely not similar. For some recent oranges, here is Fauve's Flare of Madness, which is not a neon, and hopefully you can see that. It's just a darker, like hot orange. Apocalypse's, for the pun of it, is the closer neon orange, where it is lighter, but not as yellowy orange as Prism, but it does have a strong yellow shimmer, so in certain angles they can kind of look similar, but not enough to be dupes. Next, for Food Court Flirt, here it is next to Fauve's Lunar Halo, which is not a neon, but definitely a very bright, limey yellow kind of color, but that one's filled with these iridescent flakies, so not really similar at all. The closer shade is KBShimmer's Let It Slide, which is like a highlighter yellow kind of base. That one does have a pink shimmer, but even the bases are pretty different, where it's just more neon in Prism. Then for Mallbrat, here it is next to Fauve's Absinthe Minded and Apocalypse's Apocalypse Jokes Like There's No Tomorrow. So like the previous comparisons, I would say that the Fauve isn't a neon like Prism or Apocalypse, but it is definitely very, very bright because of that shimmer especially. Though seeing them on the nail, I still wouldn't really compare it because it's just a lot more sheer than the other two. Apocalypse's shimmer is a bit more subtle and the green is a little bit darker, so the closest shade I think is Cirque's High Society, which is another lime neon green with a yellow shimmer. To be super nitpicky again, they're not exact dupes. Cirque does also have like a dainty holo, but it is like a hair or two lighter. Mallbrat is definitely a great alternative though. Then for U A Mixtape, I wanted to show it next to Beneath the Palms from the last collection. Even though that wasn't really a close color dupe, it's more just like for color reference. Beneath the Palms is more of like a jade green with like a yellowy shimmer. So the closer color option is Cirque's Kokomo, which is a teal with a pinky purple shimmer and again a dainty holo. I would say that Kokomo is definitely more pigmented, a little bit darker, but the shimmer doesn't stand out nearly as much. I also had to show this next to a couple of the recent teals that we got, including Fauve's Delirium and Apocalypse's Bare Your Fangs. They're definitely all in the same family, but not really dupes at all. I think Delirium is a little bit more green leaning with a strong blue shimmer, while Bare Your Fangs has flakies and it's also in a deeper base. Next for fountains and Photobooths, I wanted to show it quickly next to Poolside from the last collection because that's just a brighter aqua blue with like a yellow shimmer, definitely not similar. The closest prism blue that I have is Electric Horizon, which I thought was going to be more similar except for the shimmer color, but seeing it on the nail, you can see that the base in Electric Horizon is a little bit more sheer and darker as well. For actual neon blue comparisons, I did have to show this next to Cirque's Sky High and Mile High Club from previous Vice collections. In the bottle, I thought Sky High was going to be like an exact color dupe, but because these are creams, they are both just a lot darker than Prism. And like I mentioned, it's missing the shimmer, so I thought I could add Island P's Pool Party on top, which I think is a similar color to what's in Prism. It's just a little bit larger and a lot more noticeable. Then for Berry Goth, I wanted to just show this next to Liz and Lucid Scream, which are just other Prism purples, but as you can see, neither of those are neons, and they're both more of a blue toned purple as opposed to a red purple. I did also want to show it next to Fauve's Irises, which is a darker blue toned purple, but again, just for color reference, as well as Cirque's Guilty Pleasure, which is supposed to be a neon purple, but that again is just a lot darker and also more blue toned. And then I remembered Holo Taco's Electric Sweetener from the Rock Candy collection. Even though that one's not a neon, it's definitely a bright red leaning purple shade with a blue shimmer. The obvious difference though is that Holo Taco has those holographic flakies, so they may not be identical twins, but they're sisters to me. And lastly, for Heart Like a Riot, I knew I wanted to see this next to Holo Taco's Aurora Unicorn Skin, which is a blue to purple to pink sort of iridescent flaky. And I did also pull out Mooncat's Foxfire, but as you can see, that one has a stronger like green and teal leaning color to it. There's not nearly as much purple as the other two shades, so I definitely think Holo Taco is closest to being a dupe, but it is missing that dainty holo sparkle, which is easy to add, but I do think it's a little bit more densely packed with the flakies too. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons of Prism Parade's Meet Me at the Mall collection and their new charity polish. As always, I'd love to know what you think of these releases because obviously I'm a fan. I know neons can be so like overdone for summer, but I can't help but just be excited every time we see new ones, even though we admittedly have seen a couple of recent ones. So, you know, hopefully my comparisons were helpful with that. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed them. They're just so vibrant. They make me so happy. And I thought the charity polish was so pretty too. I love the combination of the flake flakies, the hollow dusting, and more importantly, the fact that it supports an amazing organization. As I mentioned before, $3 of every bottle is going to benefit It Gets Better, which is an organization that helps support LGBTQIA+ youth, which I cannot stress enough how important it is to support them during this political climate. So I will have their website linked down below if you want to read more about them, learn about what they do, or see how else you can get involved. But if you are interested in any of the polishes, they are going to be launching this Friday, May 30th. And as a reminder, I am an affiliate with Prism Parade, so I will also have my link and code in the description box as well. Using either of those gives me a small commission, which obviously helps support me and my channel. So a big thank you to all of you who do support me through that. But even if you don't plan on picking up any of the polishes, I would love to know your thoughts on them down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!